Hello, my name is Neha Savant, and I am a wildlife fisheries ecologist for the New York City Parks Department. And right now I'm in Central Park. It's cooler than I usually like it, so I'm a little bundled up. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about my job. I wish that I had some of these videos when I was an undergrad student in biology. My day-to-day job is as an ecologist, again, for the Parks Department. The Parks Department manages about 30,000 acres of land in New York City, and 12,000 of those are what we call natural areas. Includes forests, meadows, grasslands, salt marshes, which are a type of marine grassland, and wetlands as well, streams and things like that. And there's a good amount of that in New York City, which surprises a lot of people. We monitor and do research and manage those natural areas. And so part of that means doing a lot of field work in the summers. Right now I'm studying wildlife and habitat connectivity in salt marshes and how roads impact them. We also do a lot of site visits because we're called upon as experts or consultants to advise people in Department of Transportation and urban planning, even people that are doing restorations, even within our own division, because it's not just Central Park or the parks that are habitat. Everywhere is habitat for wildlife and for insects and for all sorts of things and plants. And so often our team are really specialized in understanding how plants and animals navigate New York City landscapes, and we can then advise how to mitigate for any further negative impacts to the species. And so right now I've been working a lot on dusky salamanders in Manhattan. Yes, they still exist in Manhattan. We've been working on diamondback terrapins and all sorts of wildlife. In the summers we do a lot of field work. In the winters we do a lot of data cleaning, data analysis, writing of reports. Partnership building is also a really important part of it. So making sure that we can communicate with a lot of people. There's a lot of different spaces to monitor, so we don't do all of it. It's also about understanding what other people are doing. My high school self, I don't think could have ever imagined that there was a position like this. When I was growing up, I really loved biology. I always loved animals, but I also just loved to understand how the living world works. And so biology was a natural major for me. But my parents also they were immigrants. They are immigrants from India, and they came in the 1980s, and they didn't know what the career possibilities were in this field. So I definitely had to figure things out on my own. But I think my high school self, though I would have been surprised, I also been really happy to know that there was a field where I could be outside and work on the intersection of people and nature, and in cities too. So if there was any advice that I would give a biology undergraduate, one of the big issues I think when making decisions is really hard, because especially early on in your career, there's so much that we don't know about the career or ourselves or the world that it sometimes can be hard. So I'll just acknowledge that fact. But I think one thing to know about the ecology world is that it still doesn't pay a whole lot. So I've been in this field after undergrad for about 8 years. I have a master's degree, which I took 2 years to get, and I'm now making $75,000, which will be bumped up to $86,000 because of government kind of incumbent rates. My first job out of grad school, I was making, I think, $40,000. And so these are pretty low amounts for the most part compared to other careers. And so that's one thing I want to highlight, that it can be really difficult to get a paid job, especially right out of undergrad, and especially a paid permanent position with benefits in doing wildlife ecology. It's something that the field is trying to work on, but the field does benefit people who, like myself, had the support of my family, monetary support. I was able to be on my parents' health insurance for a while, and so those are things that I didn't quite always think about, but I think I would give advice to my past self is that it's really important to think about the feasibility of what you need moving forward in your career. You know, is it going to actually provide you what you want? And for me, what I wanted in a career was really, I loved being outside. I was really curious. I wanted a career in which I could explore some of that curiosity. And I also wanted to make sure that what I was doing, the research I was doing, was really relevant to the people and the animals that I was trying to serve. And so like a government sector is actually really a good fit for me, I think. And then I think the last question kind of relates to my advice on the first one, which is that, you know, because ecology doesn't always pay super well as a career, I think it's such an important field to just understand and to even dip your toes into if you're not in ecology. I mean, ecology is like the study of living things and their connections to the environment. And I think that that's important no matter who you are, where you are, what you are, is like your relationship to the environment and the earth around you, and learning about your connection to it, not just, you know, plants and animals and their connections to it, but like your own. And, you know, some of the experts that I ask for advice on in New York City and around are not ecologists. You know, there are people who live in the area who just know things really well, but they were never in the field. You know, they were never considered, you know, biologists or ecologists. And so I'd say that there are so many different ways to get involved in ecology, and, you know, now increasingly so we're more and more aware as a society about the importance of connection to earth, especially with climate change. And so the more that we can relate all of our actions and all of the decisions that we make to the environment, I think the better it is for everybody. And that doesn't need to be a part of your career. It can just be a part of your value system too. So I hope this was helpful. There's so much more I could say, but I hope that gave you a little bit of insight on being a government employee as a wildlife ecologist. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.